So what do you remember about the Lambert family?
Well, the Lambert family, Bill Lambert,
Yeah.
yes.
What do you remember about him?
Well, I remember him, my main memory of him, of course, was when he was in RAF uniform walking up to the pub with his father. But because he was that much older than me, as a small child, you had little knowledge of who was what. But yes, his RAF uniform and his flat hat, not the cap, most of them. So I think that possibly does tell you what he actually did in the RAF.
So this is Bill Lambert's RAF service record. Now this section shows where he was posted to. So we can see that on the 11th of August 1942, he joined Number 1 Recruit Centre. Then on the 17th of August, that's just a few days later, he goes to Number 15 Recruit Centre. Now that's in Blackpool. And then we see that a week later, in 24th of August, he goes to, now what this means is Number 3 School of Technical Training. And the next thing we see is that he died just a couple of months later. So that's all that his service record actually tells us. Right, and then we can also find out what happened at Number 3 School of Technical Training. And that's this. That's also in Blackpool. And it was part of a Wellington bomber factory assembly base.
Oh, yes.
And there are people there.
Wellington bomber assembly line. There was...
It's a 5-month course in overhauling and building engines.
Yeah. I can see better without these.
That the service record doesn't actually tell you how a person died.
No.
That information is held at a different department. Yeah. They were Ministry of Defence to find out what actually happened to him.
Yeah.
And they give this information.
Yeah.
And he
you see septic meningitis, yeah. And cerebral abscess. Yeah. Well, even today that's
with antibiotics and so on. Even with modern antibiotics.
I think even today, yeah, sepsis as they call it.
It's a shock, isn't it?
Yeah, it's still very, very serious. Oh dear, oh bless him.
So that's.
Oh well, thanks for that. That's very sad.
Now also, this is his gravestone.
That's right.
Westwood.
Yeah.
There's another one behind it, which is also down here. That's
yes,
also
there's
an
two
RAF
more,
grave.
isn't there?
Yeah, and I had a look at that one, which is really interesting because amazing. That's it. It's a chap called Gordon Campaign, and the amazing thing is he died on exactly the same day as Bill Lambert.
Oh.
And originally, before I had that information from the MOD, I thought they were involved in the same airplane crash or something.
Yeah.
He lived in Hersal Lane, and at the top of Hersal Lane, you come up by there's some shops.
Yeah, I know where you mean. Yeah.
So his father had a barber's shop in one of those shops.
I remember that.
You do?
I remember a barber's shop at the top. Yeah, my dad used to go there.
Did he?
Good God.
Well, that's where the Campaigns lived.
Oh, that's made my aunt go. Oh.
And his son was killed on the same day as Bill Lambert died.
Oh, I say.
And I think we've got here.
Oh gosh.
Now there we are.
Sergeant Pilot.
So he says again, active service.
Yeah.
And he lived at 179 Hersal Lane. His father was a barber.
Well-known hairdresser, Sergeant.
Now we could find out where or how Campaign died, and he died in training. Sure. So it was a training flight out of Chipping which crashed.
Yeah. Oh, I see. They crashed while they were being trained. You see, you just naturally assume everyone that died in the Second World War was on active service, don't you?
They are technically on active service.
Well, technically, but they're not killed in combat, are they? No. But I'm sorry about Bill, bless him. But, I mean, you know, I remember Mum and Mrs. Armitt saying how badly Mrs. Lambert took it when Bill died. But no, I mean, you know, as a child, I do remember, you know, Mum and Mrs. Armitt having a lot of conversations about Mrs. Lambert and how distressed.
Was he the only child?
He was the only child, you see. Yeah. Yes, it was. Because you see, as a child, you forget all these things, but suddenly all memories come back, don't they?
Now, this is William Briggs, and he lived in Torrington Avenue, down the far end of Torrington Avenue, and his plane crashed on return from a bombing mission. So he crashed in England. Right, this is a military funeral. This is out of the newspaper. This is the military funeral in Burton Green.
Leslie Honey. Oh yes, Hillcroft, Burton Green. Servicemen active as bearers.
He was killed in a road accident in Warwick.
Oh, for goodness sake. Yeah, well, Honey's, they had the post office, didn't
That's
they?
right. It's quite an old house.
Yeah, it is an old house, yes. Yeah.
Almost an old farmhouse.
Yes, I probably was in its early days. Because it must have been one of the very first houses built along Red Lane when you think about it, mustn't it?
Now, this is a year before Thomas Honey's accident. It's his sister, Muriel Honey, and she married Cecil Barnacle.
Muriel Honey, only daughter. Yeah, she married Cecil Barnacle, yeah.
He lived came from the farm down the road.
That's right, down the one down right at the back. Yeah, I remember the Barnacles there.
Right, now this is another gravestone in Westwood Heath churchyard. This is the grave of John Gordon. They lived in Cromwell Lane, right?
Lee Gordon.
Yes. Well, the person who was killed was John Douglas Gordon.
Yes, yeah,
and
but
his father
was John Lee Gordon.
Right.
He was he.
Now I've got here actually the an article from the Telegraph about.
That's him.
That's him.
That's it.
There's quite a lot of detail.
Yeah.
So he was mayor,
he was on the.
He was mayor of Coventry.
That's what I was going to say. He was a mayor for Coventry, wasn't he? Now, didn't they live? You know the flats on the right hand side next to Charter.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there's a big house in the back, and that's where Mr. Lee Gordon lived.
There's some interesting stuff here about him. It says here, what's it?
Yeah.
And here he lived near Tile Hill, outside the city boundary, as of then. And he was on Stoneleigh Parish Council and Warwick District Council.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. I think it was 1935 or 36 that the city boundary was extended. Because at that stage, all of the land round there would have belonged to the Stoneleigh estates. And I think it was 35 or 36 that the Coventry Corporation bought a whole load of, literally bought from here right up to Hersal Common, that was all part of the Stoneleigh Abbey estates.
And then here's a note at the bottom about his son. I'll enlarge that. This one here. He had a son, John, who was killed flying a Spitfire in 1942. So that's the person whose grave is in Westwood Heath Church.
Yes. Yeah. You brought back so many memories for me.
And I can remember my father, when it was a big blitz, he woke my older sister and he said, I want you to come. And we stood on on that slope where you can see quite a distance, can't you, over the country. And he said, I want you to just see this, and I want you to remember this is the result of a war.
Oh, right.
And he was so upset, my father was, about it, you know. And I can always remember that coming up here in...
So, and it was all ablaze, I presume?
Absolutely ablaze from the top of that hill there. We stood there. We were the only 3 people. My mother didn't come because she got 2 little ones. And we just stood there and saw all this huge blaze. And then the next day, because he worked at Singer in Coventry, and he used to cycle from here to Singer.
All right.
And he went, and as soon as he got into Coventry, he was issued with a shovel and broom, and he was all in Corporation Street, all helping to get all the glass and everything up. Yeah. And I can remember knitting socks for centre soldiers in the war and turning the heels and whatever. And this tree is still here. This tree.
Were these railings still here?
I rather think they might have
the
been.
tree, haven't they?
I rather think these railings were here. Yeah. Because we used to have some wonderful games for the roots of these trees. Yeah. And the Sunday school was held here, but I only came about 3 times to Sunday school. I didn't come in. And Miss Gibbs used to, Miss Banks, and then she married. I remember going to... They had a little collection, and we bought her a condiment set to give her from some of us at this school. And she came from Borsall Common, but Miss Gibbs actually came from
Fenend, was it?
Honnelly way. No, beyond Honnelly. She lived on a farm, and she used to cycle, and you could count the number of days on your hand all the time I was here, when it was only very, very deep snow that she didn't come.
Really?
Yeah. She was an incredible
Were there many in the
teacher.
class then?
Well, she sort of had like 3 sections, and she dealt with this one, and then she dealt with that one. Maybe about 26, 27 children in the big ones. I can remember going to represent this school to Birmingham. I mean, it was a real occasion, this was. Because we had bought the 15-shilling savings certificates in those days. And I was chosen with another girl called Hazel Hambridge, who lived in Red Lane, and we went to Birmingham to represent the school to receive a certificate, and had a ride in a car from the school to Borsall Common to the garage, and then we were picked up there. I mean, to me, this was such a big, big thing, representing the school, you know.
Wonderful.
And a ride in a car, because we didn't have a car.
Yeah. Well, I think they're going to plant a tree at the village hall. It's going to take place,
Yeah.
and then there'll be a plaque saying, you know, the
Why have they asked you? Why have they asked you to do it?
because I've been in Burton Green longer than anyone else.
All right.
And it's been in Burton Green longer than anyone else. And Anita's second, isn't she?
Oh, is
I don't know
she?
where you knew that. She's just behind me,
Oh, right.
and she's going to.
She's going to fill the earth in.
cutting the ribbon. So it's Anita and I that's.
Do you remember anything about the Blitz? In
I
Coventry?
don't know. I don't.
No.
know. It was very visible from here, wasn't it?
Was it?
They always tell me that they stood over the road and watched the. Well, it was just a big red glow, wasn't it? Well, my parents had told me, you know.
Right.
Because those areas weren't there then, were they?
No.
You could look straight over Westwood. There was just a big red, massive glow. I know they always told me that.
Yeah.
Do you remember that, seeing that? Did you see that?
On the morning after the Blitz, my father made my sister and I, because you know we lived at 190, and he took us, because mum and dad slept in the front bedroom, obviously, and he opened the curtains, and we were still both in bed, and he called us into the bedroom, which was very unusual. You know, even at 7, you thought, what's my dad want me in the bedroom for? Anyway, you know, you thought, well, have you been naughty? No. Come here, children. And he stood us on the windowsill. And he said, that is what the noise was last night. The wicked Germans have bombed Coventry, and look, they've made it one big bonfire. And at 7 o'clock, or around about that, it was just one red glow over there. And it's something I will never forget, that red glow.
It's brighter than that, was it?
Oh, it was a real, well, that's a good imitation of it, but it was such a red glow. And of course, my father tried to go to work. Well, he did go to work, but all down Hersal Lane, there was bomb craters, and he was going round them, apparently.
On his bike?
No, walking.
Oh, walking?
Yeah.
Into Coventry?
Well, yeah. Well, they did in those days. Anyway, he got into work, and his foreman, had taken his family 2 days before out to South Warwickshire. So he was on his own, and his house was partly bombed. So my father said, oh, you can come back and sleep at our house. But then on his way walking back, he then went to find Mr. and Mrs. Bateman, and their house had been damaged. So he said, well, why don't you come back and sleep at our house? So those 3 people came back, not necessarily with my father, but sometime. And I do remember then, he and Mr. Bateman because the bathroom, we had an indoor bathroom, there was a bath downstairs, and they put boards over this bath and made a bed for my sister and I to sleep on, so that Mr. and Mrs. Bateman could have our bedroom.
Very nice of that.
And the spare one was the foreman. I can't remember his name. I probably got it somewhere.
Were there many refugees living out here?
Oh, yes.
Now, this is a letter which appeared in the Coventry Telegraph. It said, after the night of the Blitz,
yeah, their homes were evacuated.
Many people evacuated to Burton Green.
Yeah, but you see, that was when the caravans all came to Seaton's Field,
right.
You see, because they owned the field.
Yeah. 39, she got what she called a sweet shop.
That's right, yeah.
And so...
well, she ran it for her mother.
Yeah. That was like that there, wasn't it?
Yes, that was there.
So yeah. after the Blitz then, that was opportunity to have a caravan site there and provide all the groceries and so on for the caravans.
I don't know if they did a lot of grocery, not that I can remember. It was mainly a post office.
It says here post office on the very left.
Yeah,
of the
it was
screen.
a post office. Yes, it was a post office. So they did. I mean, as a small child, obviously we didn't go up there. I mean, we went to the shop across the road here, Whiteheads. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was where, and the co-op along Tarlow Lane.
It's quite a long way, though.
Yeah. Well, my mum used to walk and then get the bus from Tarlow. Look, in those days, that you did. You know what we told today. I mean, my mum would take 2 bags. And my sister and I, and afterwards, of course, my brother in the pushchair, we'd walk down to Tarlow, get the bus to go and do the shop, because that's where ration books were. You know, you had to specify where you were buying your rations from, and that was where we used to get our rations from, the co-op. It's a totally different, believe you me. And I mean, when they did run the buses, the Burton Green bus used to run up to the top of Red Lane, and Seaton's Field was full of caravans and people, and also, well, in fact, when I walked up to see the new housing, where the entrance, where you went in to view the new houses, I remember a big caravan there that people there slept in during the war. Oh, and the school, of course, a lot of the school, that was the biggest thing. I remember suddenly this great influx of children into Burton Green School. Well, Burton Green School.
This is a diagram which shows how many children were entering Burton Green School each month through the 1930s and 1940s.
Yeah, well,
so
look
normally
at the
you get
40s.
normally you get 1 or 2 children per month.
That's right,
There's
yeah.
a big peak here. That is the 1939.
Yeah,
declaration
that's
of
just
war.
after the war, so...
There's a huge peak here, and this
Yeah.
is November 1940.
Yeah, well,
is
that was when the big bomb,
after the
when
Blitz.
November the 14th, the Coventry Blitz.
So if we look at the register, we can see where some of these children were
Taylors,
staying,
yes.
actually.
Yeah.
And a lot of them were staying, it says care of Mrs. Rayborn. Care
Rayburn,
of.
yeah, she was the cleaner for the school.
Oh, was she? So
Yes.
they were staying with her?
Yeah,
Lots of children staying with
yeah. Well, you know,
So
but
this was 1939, the declaration of war.
but she was the cleaner at school,
Right.
and more than the cleaner, she used to have to empty the toilets every morning because, of course, they were buckets with wooden seats on top. The toilets were. Oh yeah, I'm not joking. Believe you me.
And a lot of people here, I noticed, were actually staying, or they gave their address as the social club room. That's
Yeah,
the village hall,
That
isn't
would
it?
be the old village hall, which I believe they did open up for people
Lots
to
of
stay.
so this thing. Oh, this,
yeah.
Well, I meant to ask you about it. Did you have an Anderson shelter out the back like this?
We
With
didn't.
Oh, you didn't?
We didn't personally,
No.
but when we moved in here,
This was the
Lambert's
house.
house.
So Bill Lambert lived in this house,
yes.
and he had a shelter just
and actually, when Bert and I moved in here, it was still down at the bottom of the garden where my shed is now.
with the concrete base and everything.
Yeah, well, that's how they were.
So did you get the concrete base up, or was it still down there?
No, my husband got it all up.
He did. It's a big job, isn't it?
Yeah,
And concrete steps and everything.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
What about the school? Did they have an air raid drill? And
Oh, Burton Green
Yes.
School, yeah, they had a big one built.
one air raid shelter?
Big air raid shelter, yes.
What's underground or on top of the ground or what?
Well, it was a big concrete and brick one
On top of the ground?
on top of the ground. You know where, at the school's changed no much, but there was a piece of field at the back of the school, wasn't there, that went to the edge of the hedge of the wood. It was the edge, and it was built under that, almost sort of covered by the trees off there.
Oh, right.
Yes.
So it was above ground,
Yes,
covered,
yes,
a big
yeah.
concrete place.
Big concrete
And the children all
place. And we used to have...
trooped out.
We used to have to, were taken out there, every so often as a drill to make sure we knew.
Carrying little gas masks.
Oh yeah, we always had a gas. Yeah, every day you didn't go out of the house without your gas mask in a cardboard box. And there again at school, you used to have to, we used to have try it on. Oh no, I think children were very well prepared during the Well, I certainly, my memories, when you look back, but every child had a gas mask. Not all of them.
This was a sort of a petition to get the one down Red Lane.
Yeah, they
built for the
wanted
community shelter.
Yeah.
And,
Oh yes, that there. Yeah.
and there it is.
Yeah.
I used to go by that. It used to be a bus shelter. When
That's
I remember
right.
it.
That's it. Just pull that down.
Yeah.
Have they?
Yeah. Last Tuesday.
Oh yes, that they are.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pulled down.
Yeah.
I didn't realise. I used to go by
Not
it.
last
It used to be a
Tuesday, the
bus shelter.
Tuesday before. Yeah.
And then
And all they've left is a piece of concrete about as big as this table for people to get the bus on the bus.
Do you have an air raid shelter around the back?
Yeah, I was saying my father built it himself. He dug it right out because he was a builder and he built a roof over it. And we used to go down under the
What, out the back in the back garden?
back.
That's what
but
most
he
of
dug
them
it right out,
Yeah.
and then built a wall. And then I forget what the roof was. We used to just walk in down to it.
Did you use it at all? Were there any air raids that caused you to?
We did use it time or two, I know, yeah.
What?
Yeah. Just you always go down the shelter and we used it, yeah.
During the day was that, or at night?
A day mostly, yeah.
Daylight raids?
Yeah. I
Right.
think, I'm sure we used it in the daytime.
What were the daylight raids then?
Well, they dropped bombs on the factories.
During the day? Like?
Oh yeah,
It wasn't just
not very
nighttime.
often, but there were daylight. Oh yes, there were daylight raids,
And what about-
and they were low. They used to come in low level, you see. So hopefully they weren't, so easily.
Beneath the,
They weren't so easy to be located. But yeah, oh no, it
And
flew
what's this
across
incident
there.
where you saw one during the daylight?
Yeah,
Tell me about that one. What happened?
that one. Well, it must have been sort of 4 o'clock time. But my sister and I, because the windows are slightly different in the houses up the road, but my sister and I used to quite often sit and draw, because of course Mum didn't like to put the lights on until you had to, because, it was, well, you didn't always have electric, sometimes you had no light, so you always had to have candles and other things. And we used to sit or stand and sit and draw. That was just something we did. And suddenly, I can't remember whether it was me or my sister, said, "Look, Mum, at that plane." And of course, my mum saw it, and of course she realised, because it was slightly, she saw the German mark on the wings, on one of the wings. "No, come here, that's the Germans," and she literally just threw us on the floor. And as I say, that was a daylight raid to the, my dad worked for Rolls-Royce, you see. They got a factory in Coventry as well as, but there again, I used to fetch him if they got problems at Derby. Because he must have been he was a moulder by trade. Well, to mould, and I do remember him telling my husband and me that Merlin engines.
Right.
Yeah, well, because if they were starting to make those, and if they got problems with how they were doing the engines, they used to fetch me dad. You'd take him up there. Well, he'd catch the 7 o'clock bus, or I think something like that, and perhaps not get home till late at night, 6 days a week. And then sometimes on a Sunday, this bloke could turn up in a Rolls Royce with his Homburg hat on, and my dad always was in the pub on a Sunday lunchtime, and my mum used to say, "Run up to the pub quick and tell Mr. Cowley to tell tell your dad the man from Derby's here." And of course they were trying to develop the Merlin engines, and my father used to go up, and if they got a problem, this bloke on a Sunday used to come and pick him up.
We've got the
And then well, of course
the barrage balloons.
Barrage balloons. Well, that was down where as you go into Tesco's, where the Kirby Corner, where the university buildings are. That's where the local one was, and also along Tile Hill Lane. And those were there. So there was those two that I knew locally. Barrage balloons, that's right, yeah. Yeah. Gosh. Oh, yes. Yeah, well, what used to be one just in front of the new house. There used to be one there.
Well, that's a strange place to put it, isn't it?
And one this side. Yeah.
A strange place.
Well, it's
on the city boundary, would that be?
It was that was Warwick, just inside Warwickshire. You see, but they were to you see these. Well, if anything happened, they were going to wrap wires and stuff round them to try and stop the
cyclists.
The tanks.
Oh
yes, yeah, exactly. And I think that it's only recently that they've taken the last one down from the corner of Tile Hill Lane, opposite the garage. Yeah, it's only in the recent years that was always left there. But yeah, oh no, we used to have great fun on them, jumping on and off, didn't we?
I've got another one here. Let's try this one. There's a name on the back of that photograph with Bates. Now, he lived in Station Avenue, and they had a butcher's shop, didn't they?
Yes. That's probably something to do in Tile Hill then, if it was
I
Bates.
thought it might be sort of a Station Avenue street
yes,
party.
Station. It could well be, that could. Now, I wonder if that's Tile Hill.
I think it might be trying.
Could be at the back of the Bell,
Oh, right. Yes.
in the car park at the back of the Bell, couldn't it?
So would that have been a VE Day event, do you think?
That looks as though it could have been a VE Day one, yes.
Well, if it's the back of the Bell, that's where
Where the car
Bates's
park,
lived,
where the
isn't
car,
it?
that's right. Yeah, that, I was going to say there was they lived in the back of the shop, didn't they? Yes.
Right, we've got another photograph here too. There's someone at the top of a pole putting up some flags.
Oh.
Now I think that's in Cromwell Lane. As you come up Westwood Heath Road,
Yes,
that's
it
the
could
house.
be. Yeah.
It's so
It's
that
that
means
one, yeah.
that means that field. If we go back, well, that field would be on the corner.
On the corner.
Do you remember anything going on there?
No,
A
then I
fatal-
did. I told you some wrong information when you asked me about Mr. Whitmill,
Yeah.
Inspector Whitmill. That's where he lived.
Where? In that house?
Yes.
Oh, right.
My name was Gillian Mary Webb, and I was 8 years old. And my sister,
I was Judith Ann Webb, and I was 10 years old.
I was living at 366 Cromwell Lane, and the house was called Sunnyside.
We were living with our parents, Peggy Webb and Alan James Webb.
Two.
My father worked at Sir Alfred Herbert's Limited, and he also was a major in the Home Guard.
Okay, and what do you remember about World War II?
We remembered the bombs, they were so loud, and we went into an air raid shelter in the garden further up in the orchard.
That's right.
Yeah. And do you remember anything specific about the times in the air raid shelter?
No, we just stayed there overnight, didn't we? And
Yeah.
slept there.
Yes. But I had quite a little story here.
Oh,
One night, there was a tremendous bomb. The noise of the bomb was horrendous. We knew it was near. And we were looking after my grandmother's budrigar, because they lived in Coventry and they wanted to be safe with us in Burton Green. And as the loud bomb dropped, the budrigar expired.
Oh no.
But we found out later on that this bomb had been an extra in the plane as they left Coventry, left the awful bombing, and they wanted to get rid of the weight.
Gosh. Yes, and what do you know about that photograph there? do you
I remember it being a sports day. Dad was looking after the kids. It was arranged further up the road on the opposite side,
Mm-hmm.
and that's about it.
Yes, it was an electricity sports ground, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And do you have any memories of that day? Because I presume you were there at the time, weren't you?
Yes, we were both there at the time, and I remember my father, when the sports had finished, saying, "Come on, Jill, you can sing a song." And I very nervously went towards the microphone and started and tried to sing the song of the bluebirds over the white cliffs of Dover.
Oh, very good.
Unfortunately, people joined in, so I didn't have to sing too much.
Oh yes. Gosh.
Are you in that picture?
Well, I'm just trying to work out. Am I? A bit with Mr. Webb, isn't it?
Right. Now, we sent this to Jill Webb
Yeah.
to see if she had any memories of it. This is what she said.
Jill remembers being in a sack race. That's right. Played. It's a long way to, yeah. And Vera Lynn's rendition. Yeah.
Do you
yeah.
remember the song?
Yeah, I'm looking.
You remember
Yeah,
that?
I'm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you know Vera Lynn's still alive, isn't she? Yeah.